Stacking Surfer.
I think I'm your best friend.
Balances in your bank and stack.
What's up, everybody? Stacking Surfer here, back with another awesome video interview. And today we're going to be talking to Levi Gunter from OneGold. And we're going to be diving into a few more elements of how OneGold works that we haven't hit yet today. So we've had him on twice now. We've talked about how OneGold, where it comes from, how it was set up. We talked a little bit more about how some of the functionality is. And then we had a great opportunity to do a live stream with him, which I really enjoyed all the questions you guys had for us. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him onto the stage with us here. And we're going to talk a little bit more about OneGold and go into some of the other features and functions and the benefits that you get from that. Hey, Levi, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing great. So tell us a little bit about, we've started going through how OneGold works, why it's here. And for those of you that have not seen those videos, go ahead and click up here and you'll be able to see those videos so that you can start there. But you can go ahead and finish this video and then go back to that as well. And we'll also put some links at the end of the video. But Levi, we've talked about it. It's a great app. I've been using it for several years now. It's been a way for me to have an alternative to just storing metals at my house or in a vault facility. It's been a way for me to have some additional funds that are a little bit more liquid for me. In addition to that, it's a way for me to store up some funds here in California up to that $2,000 limit so that I can avoid the sales taxes and then be able to convert it to either physical, or oftentimes I'll just leave it in there. And it becomes another way for me to be my own bank, so to speak. So I guess the question I have for you is, when people are getting started with OneGold, do you see any patterns when they usually get started? Do you notice anything that you can share with us, some tips? Are there any places where they may get hung up a little bit, or are there areas that you recommend focusing a little bit more on if someone's just downloading the app today and they're thinking about getting started with OneGold?
Yeah, great question. Overall, not really. I mean, I hate to sound biased here, but it's a pretty intuitive app, and we do have a dedicated support team. And so, we have good resources here in case there is an issue, but there's not a lot of sort of common hangups, if you will. We do get some common questions, and I could talk about that a little bit. So, folks will call or email us and say, hey, I notice you offer a variety of products here, like storage locations, that is, why should I buy one over the other? In other words, we offer storage here in the United States or in Canada with the Royal Canadian Mint, or in overseas vaults in the UK and Switzerland. And so that's a common question we get. And the answer to that is there's really no difference in terms of the products at all. Essentially what customers are buying are it's allocated metal, and typically it's a portion of a larger wholesale bar. So for example, if you buy 10 ounces of gold, you're going to own 10 ounces of likely a kilo or a 400 ounce gold bar, or silver. If you buy 500 ounces of silver, typically we have 1,000 ounce, investment grade wholesale bars that you'll own a portion of, right? So our answer to that is there's really no difference in terms of the products or pricing. It just really kind of depends on where you're most comfortable holding the metal. Okay. So everyone has sort of varying outlooks, and I could tell you maybe it's a function of us being a US based company. Most of our customers buy metal here in the US, but something we've noticed as well is a lot of folks tend to spread that out. So they may own a lot of metal here in the US, but they may also own some metal in Canada. And so, yeah, we do often see that. And just for additional context, when we first launched the platform, again, this is almost 6 years ago, we had one location. And I believe our first storage option was Canada with the Royal Canadian Mint. And we're a very customer-centric company, and we listen to what our customers say. And those were some of the first questions we got. Hey, why can't I store here in the US? Why can't I store overseas? So quickly, what we did is we developed new storage locations for our customers. And that's essentially how the app and the company, the product overall has sort of evolved over time. Is we've listened to what our customers say. We kind of aggregate all that data and say, hey, here's what they're talking about this month. we should prioritize this feature. So we now have a mobile app, and this was 5 years ago when we launched the app. After that, auto invest and a credit card and limit orders all came after, additional currency. So really what I'm getting at is our customers are sort of driving the experience via their feedback. And the other side of that too is, a lot of us here are end users as well. So we like to think that we know what our customers want because we're customers as well. So that's kind of a roundabout way of answering your question is, we don't get a lot of just hangups, but that would probably be one of the more kind of common questions that we do get.
No, I think it's helpful. People that are watching the channel range anywhere from, on average, from about 28 years old to 65 and older.
Yeah.
Some are going to be more familiar with using apps. Others, it may be still a struggle for them.
Right.
So if they do have an issue or they do get hung up, you mentioned you have really good customer service.
Mm-hmm.
How do they tap into that?
Yeah. So a few ways. You could just call us directly during working hours. That's probably our most common means. You could send us an email to support@onegold.com, or you could send us a message over the live chat, and that's just available, through the website again during working hours.
Perfect. So I've enjoyed it. What I do like is you have the options of storing in different places, right? So
Right.
if I feel like, hey, I've got plenty of gold and silver at my house, and I want to start storing some off premise just in case
Mm-hmm.
there's a robbery at my house or whatever. I think this is a great option to be able to do that. There are places around the country that will do segregated gold and silver where you may send it to them and they put it in there. And then there's also the safe deposit boxes where you have to physically do it yourself and show up. Each of those usually has a much longer time period to liquidate or to move things back and forth. What I found with this is it's pretty fast. Anytime I've gone to redeem metals, it's done very quickly. If I want to sell, it's done very quickly. If I want to buy, it's done very quickly. So I think for those of you that may be looking at other options of wanting to store in different locations, you've got the option here with OneGold, which is pretty cool. The other thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about before we get into more of what's happening in the market today is the credit card that you have on file too. So I'll put a little plug in that, plug in for you guys on that. I do have the credit card. I've been using it for about a year now. Prior to that, I was using the Amex credit card. One of the things I like about the OneGold credit card is it allows me to buy using the credit card, and the rewards basically counter out any of the fees that come with using a credit card. And so that gives me a good 30 days to pay it back if I need to have a little bit of time for that. It also gives me that ability to accumulate up to the $2,000 in California to avoid the sales tax. And then if I decide I want to take physical possession, I can do that, and I'm avoiding that, or I can just continue to accumulate. And more recently, I've started to do the term dollar cost average, where I'm using the auto invest feature, and I'm basically setting it up so a certain amount of money comes out every day. That way I don't miss the dips, and I'm also not always buying at the top. And though that's something that I've used anytime I've dabbled in crypto. It's something I've used when I'm working investing in the stock market. I've used that kind of I've used that technique to be able to help with some of my trading that I do. But I wanted to know, are you guys able to see how many people use those kind of features? Is it something that is new? Was it not there before?
Yeah, we can certainly, and we like to sort of gauge adoption. So, going back to the credit card, like you had mentioned, that program's about a little over 2 years old at this point.
Okay.
And, we first started asking our customers about that because, I think maybe some other companies have offered something, I wouldn't say similar, but actually a debit card. So basically something where you could spend your metal holdings. And to be honest, we'll probably do that too. We're certainly looking into that, and that's likely to come in the future. But before we started work on that, we asked our customers, hey, is this something you would use? And a lot of our customers would say, I mean, yeah, it's kind of neat, but why actually would I want to spend my precious metals? This is an investment to me. And so we pivoted and went a totally different path and launched something like totally unique. It's called the bullion card, and it allows our customers to earn precious metals rewards. So it's a Visa card that spends like any other credit card. The difference being you don't get cash back, you get metal added to your OneGold account. And like you had mentioned, it's same as cash pricing on OneGold or APMEX. You get 4% back when you use it on those platforms, and 1% back for everyday purchases. So like gas and groceries, excuse me. And the cool thing about OneGold is you can go in and change your rewards allocation really whenever you want. So right now, I think I have mine set on US gold. And so every month when my rewards post, I buy a little bit of gold automatically. If I change my mind there, I could go in and change it to silver and have it stored wherever I wanted to. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And it fits more of what our investors were kind of, asking for originally. Hey, I want to continue to accrue metal. And so that's kind of where the credit card, the bullion card rather, came about. And again, we'll probably provide a debit card down the road as well, because a lot of folks are interested in that too. But yeah.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been something that I gave my son a card, right? And
Yeah.
so he's out there earning free silver. And then I know there's usually some kind of a promotional program that goes on where if
Sure.
you spend a certain amount, like any other credit card, you get a bonus up front. And we were able to take advantage of that. But one thing I just wanted to show everybody too is just what my account has done, just so you guys can kind of see here. I've had a 34% return, not since I've started doing this, but since my last purchase. So things are going up here, and it continues to go up. As gold and silver goes up, this is a great way for you to earn some of those rewards. Some of you may have cash back. Well, cash is losing value all the time. Gold is going up. I think this is a great alternative to it. So it's not for everybody, but I think it's something that can be helpful. And then, as always, I'm going to put that plug out there, guys. If you do get credit cards and you're using them, know what kind of interest you're going to be paying on those. And it's always best to pay the balance off as much as you can or in full, so that you're not paying that, that charge that comes into play. So be careful with those if any of you guys have issues with credit cards. But going back to the kind of the auto feature too, I noticed there's the auto feature that's in there. You've got the ability to also do limit orders too. So
Right.
to me, I'm not aware of another place that I can go. There may be some competitors out there, but I'm not aware of any place I can go to with any of the online bullion dealers and say, hey, I want to buy $100 of silver if it hits this price. Or if it gets down to this price, I want to sell.
Yeah.
How does that work for you guys? Is it very similar to using like a brokerage account?
It's similar. It's really simple. So it's just a few steps, and basically, the thought behind that was, OneGold was launched to be sort of that like sweet spot or middle ground between the traditional route of buying metal and taking delivery and precious metals ETFs. And so we wanted to provide the liquidity and low cost structure and some of those features you had mentioned that you may encounter in an ETF, but also with the benefits of direct ownership. So that's kind of what OneGold was geared around. So it was only natural that we offer some features like that. Like you had mentioned, you're not going to really see them on similar platforms. So auto invest, like you had mentioned, it is what it sounds like. It's basically you set up an automated recurring buy transaction that allows you to dollar cost average or build a gold and silver backed savings account over time. So for example, we see a lot of our customers put in an auto invest order that, buys $1,000 of gold monthly, and they just kind of set it and forget it, if you will, or 5 ounces of silver on a weekly basis, whatever you want. You could do that with auto invest. Limit orders. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Quick on that too. So can you do it by dollar amount and by weight?
Yeah, you could do either one. Mm-hmm.
Either one. Okay, great.
Yep. Yeah, and so in terms of limit orders, you can transact on OneGold 24/7, but you may not be awake during sort of some of these major market movements that we've seen, or may not be available to actually place a buy or a sell order. So we wanted our customers to be able to set a target and say, hey, I want to buy X dollar amount or X ounces of gold if it drops to this price, say 2,000. or I want to liquidate, a portion of my silver holdings. I want to sell 500 ounces of silver if the price reaches $30 an ounce. And that's what limit orders does. It enables you to go in, select a product, quantity, again, in terms of metal ounces, or a dollar amount, and then, sort of what your, I guess, target spot price would be. And then you could sort of set that and forget it and know that, hey, it'll execute when maybe you're not available to.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think those are all great features. So I wanted to share that with you guys if you aren't familiar with it. And then Levi and I will be doing a live stream here pretty soon too that we'll let you guys know about that when that's coming up. And I'll try to put the time and date down below, maybe even a link for you guys too. So Levi, kind of going off the product itself, do you guys do much in the research as far as trying to understand that, hey, we may be getting more people buying gold or selling gold or silver? Do you guys keep on the market that much? And, what do you see trends and where are we going?
Yeah, we do keep track of that pretty carefully. We like to know what sort of the trends are, not only at our company, but more broadly speaking. So certainly have our ear to the ground there. In terms of trends, what we're seeing right now is sort of interesting. So overall, I could speak for OneGold and APMEX to some degree as well, is sales are slowing. So we're seeing kind of a slowdown there. Nothing like significant, but more normal. So it's normalizing, I should say. Probably would be closer to something that we would see pre-COVID. So certainly solid in that realm, but not really the record quarter after record quarter, record year that we sort of became accustomed to during the COVID year. So sales have kind of slowed down and normalized to some degree. While at the same time, our buybacks have increased significantly. So there are a lot of folks out there, especially on OneGold, who are just taking advantage of the higher spot price and taking a little off the table. And selling right now. And if I look, I think at the last quarter for APMEX, I think their buyback transactions were about 44% of their total sales transactions. So, and to give you an idea, APMEX does about 1.6 billion in sales every year. So we're buying a lot of product back right now due to the high spot price, and we love that for our customers. I've seen that on OneGold as well. We had a massive influx of new customers. As you can imagine, the first quarter of 2020, when silver dropped to like $11 an ounce, but you couldn't buy a physical ounce of silver for anywhere close to that. It was closer to $25 an ounce. So a lot of folks really kind of loaded up on silver at that time on OneGold and didn't do anything with it. And now what we're seeing is they're either converting it to a physical delivery and getting some of that sent to them, or they're actually going ahead and just liquidating and taking some off the table.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there. I see an opportunity here to take advantage of a service like OneGold.
Yeah.
When the premiums start to get out of control.
Yep.
It wasn't even that far ago that we had Silver Eagles going for over $42.
Right.
Yet the spot price, I want to say, was 23, 24, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So with, your premiums wouldn't have been very high there.
No, not at all. And that's one thing we like to say around here is, I want to invest in the metal, not necessarily the premium. And a lot of people will get in on OneGold, especially during sort of an elevated premium environment, and get exposure to metal closer to spot price. And as premiums tend to normalize, they'll go ahead and redeem into physical. You just get more silver that way. I mean, right now, I think even I checked it earlier. I want to say the industry average for your most popular product in America, silver-wise, Silver American Eagles, is around 22%, which we're thinking that premiums are coming down because they are, but that's still significant. I don't want to buy. I own Silver Eagles. I will always own them, but I'm not buying that many at that price, right? I don't want to give away too much in the premium. I'd rather park it on OneGold and get that much more silver for my money, and just have that much more exposure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. So I do think that's a great consideration for everybody is, when you're looking at buying silver and gold, there's strategies that are out there. A lot of times we're just talking about whether it's a good time to buy or not, if price going up or down. But premiums are a huge thing to be aware of. And, really what the difference in the premium is it's what the physical is selling for versus the spot price. And so a lot of times there's supply and demand of what's going on with the spot price, but there's also the physical supply and demand. And if there's just a ton of silver and dealers are trying to get rid of it, you'll see that premium come down. And if there's a lot of demand for the silver at the moment, and there's just not a lot of supply, that's when you see the premiums get bigger and wider. OneGold's a way to hedge against that, which I think is great. So I'm going to have to take more notice on that. So I think dollar cost averaging is great, but when you see a big disparity in premiums, those are the times you start to double down or triple down.
Certainly.
And make things happen. So I'm hearing right now too a lot of chatter around gold hitting 3,000. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about that towards the end of the year here. And I continue to see the gold to silver ratio around 50 or 85, to 86.
Yep.
We've seen it kiss 90 a few times. And not even that long ago, it was over 100. So if gold's going to potentially go up to 3,000, I think we're going to see most likely a rubber band effect where it pulls silver with it, which is the way you want that ratio to work if it's going to go down, right? If the gold to silver ratio go down, you want gold high so it pulls silver up. So the question I have for you is this. Do you guys think that gold may hit that? Is that something that you're looking at? Do you see the market dynamics that could potentially affect that? Or do you think some of those people are up in the night?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I would say we don't really take a position as a company on that. So we don't have, hey, here's our forecast, right? I have my personal views, and that's more, probably a little more conservative. So I don't, gold at 3,000 at 29.99. Yeah, that would be great. I do think that there are a lot of tailwinds for gold right now. We know what most of them are: central bank buying, geopolitical concerns, a Fed pivot coming up. So a couple of the tailwinds I think are going to persist through the end of the year easily. Geopolitically speaking, I think that if you look at any of these conflicts that we have going on right now, I don't see a near end in sight. Regardless of how you feel about any of them, I don't think they're slowing down. If you just look at, Israel's stated objective in Gaza, it's basically, hey, we want to the degradation of Hamas as a governing authority there and the recovery of hostages. Well, that's not going to take a month, right? So that's going to take a while. There's still a war going on in Ukraine. And what we've seen is when gold makes these dramatic moves upward, it's typically, right on the heels of some geopolitical event, at least over the past 2 years. So I don't see that slowing down. I think that's going to remain supportive of gold throughout the rest of the year. The Fed pivot is something I mentioned a moment ago. That's significant because we're not only pivoting in the sense that we're starting to cut rates in September, but they're also sort of abandoning that narrative that said, hey, we're not going to cut rates until our target rate of inflation is, at or below 2%. And clearly we're well above that now, yet we're still about to cut rates. When that does happen, again, in September, whether it's 25 basis points or 50 basis points, I don't know what the odds are favoring today. It seems to change, minute to minute. Either way, that's going to be, in my view, supportive of gold. On the flip side, I think you have some price sensitivity setting in, though. So central bank buying has slowed a little bit. You notice that China stopped buying gold, I believe in May, again, citing price sensitivity as an issue. You've seen slowdowns in the jewelry sector, which tend to be a major contributor to overall gold demand. So jewelry sales have slowed in China and India. So while you have these two kind of tailwinds in my mind that are significant in geopolitical events and monetary policy, I think gold's going to have some headwinds in terms of just overall price sensitivity. And that's kind of what we're seeing on OneGold right now is, hey, gold's at an all-time high. I'm not as interested in buying it at this moment. So I think you're going to see that sort of weigh on gold a little bit. So my forecast is a little bit more conservative than that. I think we're going to be pretty close to where we are now. Frankly, I think it's up about 22% year to date. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see gold at or near, 2,500 by year's end.
Okay. How about silver? So do silver has definitely not had the run that gold has had.
No.
We've kind of touched, up about 25 a couple times here. but we continue to go back down and
Yeah.
test. Luckily, we, at least on this last one, we haven't tested 25. It looks like we tested 27 and came back up. Maybe it went down to 26 very briefly. Do you see silver hanging around where it's at now, or do you see that potentially higher by the end of the year?
Yeah, I think it could go either way. That's the easiest way to answer that question. But to be serious, I think silver, if I look at the chart, probably 23% up year to date. So it's had a great year so far. One thing I look at silver is that industrial component. So in the last few years, industrial demand has accounted for well over half of silver's total demand. And as we know now, industrial demand's currently forecasted to increase by, I think, 9% this year. That physical silver deficit is going to widen. So that's obviously supportive of silver. But if you foresee any kind of like economic downturn or slowdowns in the economy, that's likely to dent the industrial demand for silver. So it has that weird sort of industrial component silver does that gold doesn't, that you kind of have to account for. But you mentioned the gold to silver ratio earlier. I look at that pretty closely myself because, we're averaging around about 60 post Bretton Woods. Okay. So post us leaving the gold standard in 1971, we've been averaging around 60. Here lately, it's been elevated. But what you could like almost count on if you look at the chart is anytime gold silver ratio makes it up to about 95, silver jumps up significantly. And I think it's done that about twice here in the past few years that I can recall. Once earlier this year, the gold silver ratio made up to around 95, and silver jumped by about 25%. And the same thing happened, I believe it was in the second quarter of 2022. So same thing, gold to silver ratio hit about 95 or 96, and silver jumped by about 25%. So I think that's a decent indicator. I do think that silver tends to track gold. There tends to be a lag there, as we've seen. So it's a little bit more of a wild card, though. I mean, we've always known that silver's a little bit more volatile. It's a smaller market. So I still think I wouldn't be surprised if silver's, 27% higher or so by the end of the year. Again, sort of conservative estimate there, but that's kind of my best guess.
I think those are great guesses. For me, I've been kind of talking about silver maybe hitting 30 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's probably, I don't see it being significantly higher than that. Gold for me, I've been kind of looking at 2,500 and it hit that. So
it's kind of bizarre at this point.
Yeah, I'm in a very similar camp.
Yeah.
To get to 3,000, I think we need to have a few things happen that haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
So, maybe we end up with China invading Taiwan, which
Right.
could definitely bump things up. We could hear some announcement from the BRICS nations. We could eventually see more countries not buying U.S. debt and having people actually realize that. Right now, they still, I don't think, realize how much U.S. debt's being purchased by the Federal Reserve.
Yep.
But there's a few things like that could potentially weaken the dollar a little bit more and bring the price up. But I don't really see a way to get to 3,000 necessarily. So for me, personally, I'm not buying as if it's going to do that for sure.
Right.
And, I'm not buying as if I'm expecting silver to be 40. I just continue to do the same things that I do all the time, which we talked about earlier, is I'm always buying. And then a lot of times I'm selling when I see good opportunities for it, especially for physical. When I'll go to coin shows every once in a while, and we'll have a booth and we'll put product out there and we'll price it appropriately, and you will move a fair amount of product. And to me, it's just, I find things that I can buy lower and I sell them higher. And as long as I can keep doing that, my stack grows. And, I think looking at OneGold, that's probably not a bad way to play the gold to silver ratio if someone wants to do it.
Sure.
And you're okay not having it in your physical possession, but having it in a vault. You've got that ability to buy more silver when the ratio is higher, and then to flip that into gold, and your premium expenses are going to be significantly lower than if you have the physical. I've tried to help a few friends that have been looking to play the ratio, and they'll come to me and they'll be like, "Hey, the ratio's changed now. I want to do this." And I don't think they realize that to sell at a local coin shop and then to buy it from the local coin shop, you're going to take up like 10 points, if not 15 points on that ratio spread. and we just haven't seen the spreads so large enough that you can actually make it worth your time.
Right.
So, but with OneGold, I think you probably could do that. I'd have to look at it more closely, but I think the spreads are probably a little, definitely more forgiving on it. Okay, Levi. So another thing I just want to hit out with everybody here too is, do you have any suggestions for us as far as, you know, working with you guys goes? Do you have any suggestions? One thing we haven't talked a whole lot about is taking physical possession yet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any suggestions on how to best do that, or I don't know, anything that comes up that would be helpful for us to be aware of?
Oh man, yeah. Let's see. Let me think about that for a second. So, as it pertains to physical possession, there's a ton out there. AppMex has like I think 30,000 different products available,
Yeah, where do we
and what I like to tell people is when you're buying physical metal, you're taking delivery of it. Not only be mindful of the premiums and the spreads, but like what's your exit strategy as well. Um, a lot of us plan on holding it long term. But if you want to sell, you want to know that the item you have is liquid. So I tend to veer away from, unless I'm really in the numismatics, right, and know pre-33 gold very well and know I can make money off that. That's a different story. But if we're talking about bullion, I like to look at what's most commonly bought and sold amongst your largest dealers. That gives you an indicator of how liquid an item is. So to me, I stick with, your most popular coins here in the United States, the gold and silver American Eagles. I like production silver, so silver bars and gold bars as well. Those things are going to give you liquidity and sort of, that recognizability factor. Even if you do sell it local, you're not getting killed on the premiums because the dealer's not going to have to sit on it for a year to sell it. So those types of things. Other sovereign coins, gold Krugerrands and maple leafs, those tend to be very popular, silver maple leafs. You're very safe, in my view, with those types of items. So if you're taking physical possession overall, I would just say, hey, consider your exit strategy, consider your premiums, and sort of, go from there.
I think that sounds great. Does it take long to get it once you go through that process?
Not at all. Yeah, we've streamlined it very well on OneGold, that is. So if you decide, hey, I want to convert my vaulted to physical delivery, you can go in and you place a redeem order with a few clicks, and then we'll ship it to you. We'll have the order out of the door within 1 to 2 business days. So it's fully insured. So pretty quick turnaround there. Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's pretty fast because the funds are already there versus
exactly.
Someone's doing an HCH. I've noticed with AppMex, and it's the same with any other bullion dealer, I believe, is it can take up to a week with an HCH to go through, depending on your bank. If you use a credit card, a lot of times it takes 24 hours. With the funds already being there, I think it's just probably a ledger thing, right? That's probably happening in the back end, which allows you to then reconcile very quickly and be able to ship out the transaction. So I think that's for everybody to know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I've enjoyed the time, Levi. I'm looking forward to doing a live stream soon here. For those that have not downloaded the app yet, or maybe they have downloaded the app, but they haven't, they haven't made their first purchase yet. I know we've got a couple discount codes that basically allow them to get gold at spot that are still valid. Do you have any suggestions on that process? I know that there's a code for gold and there's a code for silver. I'll add those to the screen right here so you guys can see them here. I'm forgetting in my head what the codes were exactly. Do you remember what they are?
Yeah, so I believe yours. So it's SurferG for gold at a spot. So that's going to get you US gold at spot. And then Surfer S is going to get you silver at spot. And again, that's US silver. So use those for your first order. Once you sign up for an account, just check your emails. We love to do promotions where we sell product at spot. We typically have a limited amount of inventory that we could do that with, as you can imagine. So we love doing that for our customers, though. So certainly use those codes as much as you can, and then be on the lookout for other promotions as well.
I think that's awesome. And is there a limit to how much how often they can use that code and how much they can use on that transaction?
Yeah, good question. So the codes are a one-time use and they'll expire. The maximum discount that you can get is $10,000. So that's quite a large order. It's just basically the maximum discount we'll provide with those codes is $10,000.
So my recommendation to those watching here is when you go to use those codes, do it on more than just buying an ounce of silver.
Yeah.
Plan on buying more. If that's all you have money for, good. Go ahead and get started with that. But if you're planning on buying more and you're kind of testing things out, make sure you're holding on to that code to use it for doing that. And then Levi, do they need to put that code in when they first download the app, or is that something they can use at the point of transaction?
Yeah, it looks like your typical sort of e-commerce transaction. So you'll download the app or create an account on onegold.com. And then when you're sort of in the checkout process, so you've selected your product and your payment method, we'll give you a field that says coupon code. It'll pop right up there. Just enter those codes in. Again, those are valid for US gold and US silver, and that'll get you the metal at spot.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on. And I want to thank everybody for watching the video here. If you guys haven't done so, hit the subscribe and bell icon so you don't miss any of our other announcements of our next videos coming out. And then also give that thumbs up so that we know that you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment down below too. I'd love to start getting questions for Levi for our live stream. So go ahead and put those in all caps. That'll make it easier for me to find them in all the questions. But go ahead and ask your questions. I'd love to see if we can put Levi on his toes a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
And we'll help him out. And as far as a lot of questions around the spot price, guys, I think we already gave that. But if you've got more questions around the app or the company, I think that would be great. If you do have questions around where you think the market's going, let's bring those up as well. I think that would be perfect.
Yeah.
So Levi, thank you again for your time. And until next time, peace out, everybody.